I can't think of a single one of us who doesn't love laughter and love. They really go quite well together. When we don't feel loved, laughter really helps, and when we do feel loved, laughter helps us feel even more loved. The first time I saw Tom Baker was, well, I don't know when. I think it was about 20 years ago, and it was at our friend Dean Kent and August Armstrong's wedding that he officiated at. And this was back in the 90s, and the Catholic Church was just beginning to have their shadows revealed to the public. And we were just hearing about some things. And Tom stood up, and I remember the first thing he said was, I used to be a Catholic priest, and boy, did divine timing get me out of that just in time. And I just almost fell on the floor laughing. I just thought, what a great guy. And to be able to laugh at things that many people don't laugh at, or, we need humor in everything. It's very important. And so whenever Tom speaks, Larry and I do our best to come and hear him, because he's just filled with love and filled with laughter, and we're just so blessed that he left the Catholic Church. And he did leave at the right time, because he came into all of our lives, and he continues to entertain us while touching our hearts on the deepest levels. And it's with great pleasure that I introduce Tom Baker.
My wife echoes your blessing. Yeah, I got out in the nick of time. You're exactly right. Whoa. Let me have a little vodka here. Now I'm ready. Well, I know I don't look it, but one Christmas season when I was in college, I played Santa Claus. I was Santa Claus at the zoo. And I did not have, unfortunately, I do have now, but I did not have the girth to play Santa Claus. So I put a pillow underneath my clothes, and I kind of filled out the suit. Playing Santa Claus was one of the most fascinating experiences I've ever had. It was nothing like I expected, because for the first time in my life, I was playing a myth. The myth of Santa Claus is to a great degree that of a jolly God who gives you what you want if you behave. Now, children think that when they get what they want, they will be happy. And I remember seeing child after child standing in line, waiting to sit on my lap, waiting to be happy. Most of them did not have lists. They were very nervous. They were squirmy and shy. And I began to realize that many of them thought I really was Santa Claus. And they were a bit overawed in my presence, which absolutely delighted me. I also realized that I had enormous power in their minds as one who held the secret to happiness. I was very careful about what I said, and I was very, very careful about what I promised. And at no time did I make fun of the myth they held to so tightly. Yes, I assured them, if you've been nice rather than naughty, if you've been the child Santa wants you to be, then I will consider your requests. It was a little spooky how much visits with Santa was like hearing confessions. Now we all hold some belief that something outside of ourselves will make us happy. We have the belief, especially at Christmas, that when I get something or when something happens, I will finally be happy. Some of you are thinking that right now. When I finally get the job that I've been looking for, I'll be happy. When I finally get out of the job that I hate, I'll be happy. If I could only get married this Christmas, I would be happy. If I could only get out of this marriage this Christmas, I will be happy. It's all a matter of where you are in your happiness. One Christmas, when I was about 8, a toy filling station was the gift that I thought would make me happy. When I came down the stairs, there it was. Under the tree, my happiness. I shouted with joy, and startled by my shouts of joy, my 3-year-old sister fell backwards and sat on my filling station. With a terrible crunch, my happiness turned into a flattened pancake of tin. I immediately became enraged, and I lunged for my sister. My father deftly caught me and swung me around and put me on his lap. I don't remember what he told me, but my parents, when they recounted that Christmas, said that he reminded me that the best gifts we have are our family, and the filling station could be replaced, but sisters could not. Of course, what my father was trying to tell me was something he himself probably did not believe. The way with parenting, isn't it? You're always saying these things. I don't know if I believe that or not. What he was implying when he rescued my sister from my wrath was that in my family I already had what I needed. I was loved, and that was enough. Filling stations, Lincoln Logs, erector sets, and electric trains were my way of being loved on my own lonely terms. In other words, when love is forgotten, greed takes center stage. That's why in Buddhism, the great error is what? Greed. Greed. That's what the Buddhists look at. The way Christians look at pride, and they say that's the greatest sin. Buddhists look at greed and say, yes, that's the greatest sin, because greed leads to attachment. Oh. And we go to greed when we let go of love. When we give up or forget about love, we feel an emptiness. And we turn to stuff, to things, to fill us up and make us happy. The question I'd like to ask, and I've asked it before here, what if we are already loved? What if we are already happy? Now, that's not the way we usually approach things. I'm lonely. I need you. I'm poor. I want this and that. I'm sick. I need to get well. We start out lacking in our minds. What if we started out in abundance? I know I am loved, and I know I am happy. I've told you before about this incident at the first of my marriage, when I began to argue with my wife, Kathy. I said, darling, I'm from Kentucky by way of Texas. Darling, are you sure we're happy? Kathy said, I don't want to talk about it. And I came back again. Darling, I don't know if we're happy or not. Maybe you should have married somebody else and I should have married somebody else. What if we're not happy? She said, I don't want to talk about it. So I came back again and again and again with a happiness question. And finally she said, Tom, I'm happy. You're happy. It's settled. Get over it. Yes. From that day on, I have celebrated my happiness. Christmas is the season when we turn to any and everyone and call them sister or see them as brother. This is the time of year when we listen to our souls. Our souls remind us that lifetime after lifetime we've been together and we've been trying to remember that we love those souls we're with. Despite appearances, despite behavior, despite their reaction to us or our reaction to them, we try to remember, yes, you precious one, I do remember you. Sometimes I have the experience of standing before a group of people I've never or seldom seen, and I see them all as oddly familiar. You ever had that experience where you see somebody you've never known and you say, I've seen them somewhere. There's something familiar about them. At those times of recognition, I feel an overwhelming affection for all those people. It's like my heart just leaps out. I think that when the shepherds and wise men came to the makeshift maternity ward at Bethlehem, their amazement was the result of the child looking like their child. Mary reminding them of their mothers, and Joseph reminding them of their fathers, or at least the holy version of their children and mothers and fathers. A Course in Miracles asks us to see others not as special or ordinary, not as naughty or nice, but to see each person, despite behavior and appearances, as holy, confused and holy, mentally ill and holy, addicted and holy, poor and holy, disfigured and holy, untrustworthy and holy. You name it, and holy. Holy means to see in each face the face of Christ. That's why when I look out, everyone looks familiar. It is the face of light itself. When Jesus healed and forgave and told his stories about God, he brought people home to their holiness. The quest to remember our holiness did not last long in Christianity. It faded away very quickly. In other words, we gave up on love before it had a chance to blossom in that religion. And instead, we turned to greed. We said, if I've been good, Santa Claus God, will I go to heaven? If I've been nice, will I get what I deserve? That's where Christianity went. It went right towards Santa Claus. There are notable exceptions. Kathy and I saw a WHR presentation on Lourdes. It was about a maimed and disfigured wounded warrior, a number of maimed and disfigured wounded warriors visiting Lourdes, and they were hoping for a cure, something that would make them whole again. Most of the wounded warriors, after spending a week at Lourdes, praying, singing, bathing in the healing waters, after that they felt they had a new and hopeful outlook on the world. But one man impressed me particularly. He was a big African-American man. He'd been shot in the mouth and had plastic surgery to make him look presentable. But he was still quite disfigured. Thank you. He had been a strikingly handsome man before his wounding. Looking in the mirror was now a challenge and a disappointment. He practiced no faith, but he was curious about Lourdes. On the last day, when everyone was giving testimonials, this man rose to speak, and his voice broke with tears. He looked over the group, and maybe they looked familiar. And he said one thing, just one thing. He said, "Your smiles are my religion. Your smiles are my religion." Then he shook with sobs, years of shame and pain and embarrassment, expressing themselves as the group stood and applauded. Many were smiling, and all were acknowledging his holiness. At last I thought, he knows he is loved just as he is. The real Christmas story is the story about being loved just for who we are. Jesus loving the tax collector Zacchaeus and going home to have dinner with him. Jesus loving Mary Magdalene and taking away her shame by respecting and honoring her. Jesus the child, making every humble home a sacred place. And simply Jesus himself, touching the divine in people, the divine that Bruce was talking about and he sang about, which woke people up to their immense beauty and in their center, their perfect holiness. My Christmas wish for you is that Jesus will touch, perhaps the smile of another, the holiness in you. And for a moment you feel the words of a shepherd and the wonder of a shepherd. beholding the Christ child. That's your Christmas. Merry Christmas.